Hello and welcome back to my Ratropolis guide series. This is episode number 3. We'll be covering the military cards and my opinions on them. There's a few things that I need to make a note of beforehand. First of all, there are, I believe, 4 cards in the military card type that I have not yet seen or played with because I haven't played with the Navigator. I talk about that a little more in previous videos. I'll give my opinion on the one that I have unlocked and what I think, but know that I haven't played with it yet. That being said, who am I? Hello, my name is Voyix. I'm a Twitch streamer, twitch.tv/Voyix64. Play some roguelike deck building games over there, as well as some other indie games every night. I played a lot of Slay the Spire, played a good amount of Ratropolis. I'm playing Darkest Dungeon right now. If you want to talk about anything that I say in this video in real time, you can come over to Twitch, hit me up, we can talk about Ratropolis. I love talking about this game. With all that out of the way, I need to make a few notes about military cards and terms I'm going to use in this video. The cards, they do say this to an extent, but I'm going to classify each card as a frontline, midline, or backline unit. Rear rank cards are backline, essentially, and the main thing is that some cards, like Musketeer, they don't say that they're behind the wall, and they're not behind the wall, but they don't walk up into melee range ever. Like, their range is specifically from shooting in front of the wall. That being said, I'll make notes of each one when which position each card is when I talk about it, where they'll stand, and about how far away they'll hit, as well as other things. There's some hidden stats on this card, mainly attack speed is not shown, and there's no real way for me to quantify attack speed for you. I haven't really tried to measure out how many attacks a guard makes per second or anything like that. But I'm going to talk about attack speed in relation to other cards. So I'm going to probably use guards and militia as baseline attack speed units, and I'll refer to everything as faster or slower than them. Although I'm pretty sure everything is slower. I think guards and militia are very fast. I think they might be the fastest, but it's hard to say. That out of the way, the only other notes that I have here to mention are melee AI. Melee units such as Shield Rat or Militia. Militia, they have a little bit of a messy AI. They won't always work how you want them to. Sometimes they'll just walk all the way out halfway across the map to go fight an enemy. Sometimes they'll not fight an enemy who's been throwing shit at the wall for a good 2 minutes. So you gotta keep that in mind. There's ways to mitigate that, such as taking movement speed increases to help them get to and from the enemies faster. If they get to the enemy faster, they're gonna have less time for their AI to get confused and walk back to the wall. And the last thing is that in the update that hit on Friday night, the units all got, not all, but a lot of units got their numbers changed. I'll make note of the ones that I think are actually important, because most of them are just +2 or -2 health, which in the long run isn't going to be that big of a deal. All that being said, this is the end of my intro, I'm pretty sure. I don't think I have anything else to tell you. So let's get started with guards. Guards are a 27 gold, 1 population backline unit, range of 400, which means they'll hit from about the wall to about halfway to the next wall, roughly. 2 attack and 3 health. Upgrade to 41 cost, 3 attack, 5 health. Guards are one of the 2 starting military cards you will have. I, in recent times, have used guards as late as through wave 30 with some damage buffs to help stay alive. Essentially, before the change back in December that changed the way that waves stack up, I would always remove guards as my very first thing, even before Grain, because you didn't need them. You could hold it down with just melee units. However, after the changes to the way waves stack up, if you don't have some sort of ranged unit doing DPS for you, your melee units are just going to get absolutely crushed because they can't possibly keep up with the waves when they start to, all of the units start to hit at the same time, and it becomes a real problem. And for backline units, I think that guards are actually the best of the options right now. There may be, maybe some of the new units are better, but currently for me, I keep guards in as late as to wave 30 if I don't find a better option. So there's some better options that are just military melee units, like you can stack up a bunch of longswords or duckling riders and that'll be okay, or you can go longbow, Bannerat. I'll talk about those those military cards when we get there. Mainly, guards are good. I would not replace them. There is one unit that is a direct upgrade, Slinger. I'll talk about him when we get there, because personally I don't think he's a direct upgrade due to the fact that guards attack extremely fast. And I think that they are worth keeping as long as you have a way to buff up their attack. I'm going to actually jump ahead now and go to Militia. I'm going to talk about the two starters right out the gate. Militia is your other starter card in every deck. They are 23 gold, 1 population common card, 3 attack, 16 health. Upgrade to 35 gold cost, 5 attack, 24 health. Militia are interesting. There's definitely a lot more units that are direct upgrades to Militia than there are guards. And their role, it will be replaced by a lot of different cards. Militia are your starting frontline unit. They essentially are going to, more or less the way that I've been playing it lately is whoever's on the front line, whichever unit I'm using, they're going to be doing tanking while the back line does all the damage, which I think is more or less how it should be done now. There's one thing to note about Militia. Their attack speed is really high, and the Militia Advisor makes their attack speed even higher. You can have a lot of fun if you get an early barracks and just stack upgrades on the Militia. Their super high attack speed plus higher damage numbers will cause them to absolutely obliterate waves. It's fun to watch that, but outside of that specific circumstance, you're going to want to replace Militia with a better melee unit as soon as you can. I'm going to move my microphone a little bit closer here. One moment. There we are. All right. Back on the first page here, we have Shield Rat. Shield Rat is a 40 gold, 1 population cost, rare unit. After every 4th hit, blocks the next damage. 3 attack, 44 health. Upgrades to 60 gold, 5 attack, 66 health. Shield Rat is... He's so good. Like, this unit has been nerfed, I think, at least 4 times, and I think he is still strong. Shield Rat, in every way, I think that Shield Rat is better than Militia. More health and the damage mitigation on his passive plus the 1 population cost is the same as Militia is going to be very important to keep in mind population cost when talking about cards, because if a card has a high population cost, it's going to really drag you down. You're going to, like, for example, when we get to Armored Knight, I'm going to talk about this a lot. I'll actually bridge that gap when we get there. Yeah, I mean, Shield Rat's just great. I will always pick Shield Rat and use him to replace Militia. He's a direct upgrade in every possible way. I would always take him. Next up is Berserker. 41 gold, 1 population. Rarity is rare. Deals double damage when other rats die. 7 attack, 28 defense. 62 gold cost on the upgrade. 11 attack, 42 health. Berserker... Basically, the only time I ever use Berserker is if I don't find a better melee unit to replace Militia. Mainly because he has such low health. I don't particularly like having high damage on my frontline units. Like I said, I prefer to have the damage dealt from the back line, let the front line handle just taking damage, and if they get some damage out there, cool, but mostly just want to beef up their health. And since Berserker is more or less focused on dealing damage, the only time I've ever really wanted to use Berserker long-term is with the Advisor, which makes it so that when they Berserk, they gain lifesteal, I think it is. I'll talk about that when I talk about Advisors. One thing to also note is that I believe every unit has an Advisor specific to it. Although that may be incorrect for some of the new units like Bandit and Duckling Rider. I haven't actually checked. I haven't seen any for them, but that doesn't mean. Actually, I'm going to check right now. Go to military advisors. Let's see if any of these guys look new. No, so I don't think the new ones have an advisor specific, but while we're here, we can look at the Gladiator. So when you get a military card advisor, you get the card, and then it buffs the card in some way. Just a quick side note, because I'm going to talk about these advisors a lot while talking about these cards. And this is while berserking, they gain HP, so they gain lifesteal. It's okay. I'll talk about the advisors more in depth when I'll make a separate video on that, but Berserker in particular, I think it's important to note that I think with his advisor, he's a little better, at least. Up next, Armored Knight, 71 gold, 2 population cost, epic rarity, stuns the enemy, 12 damage, 64 health. Upgrades to 107 cost, 18 damage, 96 health. Armored Knight has a very slow attack speed. I didn't talk about these cards' attack speeds because I don't think they particularly matter. They shouldn't be doing damage. They're mostly going to be tanking for you. Berserkers, it kind of matters, but that's besides the point. Armored Knight is the first card that I really think his attack speed is worth mentioning. It's really, really slow. And there's 2 main reasons that I don't like Armored Knight. The first one is his cost. 2 population is really hard to swing. He doesn't really tank very well. He has not a huge health pool, and his attacks are very slow. In theory, you can stack up a bunch of Armored Knights to chain stuns on targeted enemies. However, this doesn't work on bosses. Bosses are immune to all of those sorts of debuffs, and your knights are just going to get run over because you're going to have not as many. When I look at something like this, I have to ask myself, would I rather have 1 Armored Knight or like 2 Shield Rats? Obviously, if you don't get Shield Rat or Berserker, you can take Armored Knight in a pinch, but it's going to be a real tough timing, especially at epic rarity. I think that he's really not worth it. Medic. Medic is 51 cost gold, 1 population cost, rare rarity, heals HP based on attack of Medic, 8 attack, and 18 health. Upgrades to 12 attack, 27 health, 77 cost. Medic is the first unit that I have to actually mention. I think I forgot to also mention that all of these cards we just talked about are melee units. Sorry, I'm still kind of getting used to it. If I don't make a note, just assume that it's a melee unit, more or less. Medic is the first one where I do need to make a note. Medic is a real strange unit. He doesn't really fit into any of the conventional positions. Essentially, how Medic is going to work is you place a Medic down at the wall. They're going to stand outside of the wall in front of it at the mid-range slot, but they will never attack. All they do is run up to your melee units, heal them for whatever their attack is, and then run back to the wall. And they just do that on loop. Initially, I thought that Medic was really, really good. In recent times, I think that the only real case to take Medic is if you have specific units that are really expensive that you don't want to be losing, like a legendary unit that has a high health, such as Duckling Rider, or maybe even with Armored Knight, but it's hard because then you're spending 3 population on Armored Knight, but that's besides the point. Medics have a few main problems. One of them is that they get absolutely destroyed in any fight with AoE. So past wave 20, medics are extremely worthless. Up till wave 20, I think that they're okay. But once you pass wave 20, medics get wiped out so fast by any form of AoE. You need a better plan than medic by wave 20. Other than that, I think they're okay as a healing position. I've talked about healing in the last video. I'll talk about it more so in the building and skill videos probably. Healing saves you money in the long term, so maybe it's okay to grab 1 medic and throw him down on the line to maybe save some melee units, but I don't know. I don't particularly like it. Medics will also only fight if there is no other unit on the line. So if you have, unless you have 1 medic only on your wall, medics will not fight. Well, 1 medic in front of the wall, I should say. They will fight if there's ranged units behind them. Overall, though, I think I tend to avoid medic. Super weird unit, though. Another weird one is Bannerat. Bannerat, 76 cost, 2 population. Adjacent friendly units have +2 attack. 6 attack, 38 health. Upgrades to 114 cost, 9 attack, 57 health. Stats on Bannerat extremely don't matter, except for the health. The health is probably the only thing that matters. Bannerat is the same as Medic in that Bannerat does not fight. He stands on your wall. He stands in front of the wall, and he buffs everything around him by +2 attack. He essentially has a little aura. This effect does stack, so multiple Bannerats will provide multiple attack buffs. So if you have 4 of these guys, it's going to get everyone nearby 8 attack. There's one specific case where Bannerat I think is good in combination with Longbow Rat. However, outside of that case, Bannerat suffers from one big problem in the late game, aka past wave 20. Same thing Medic struggles with, AoE. Any mid-range unit is going to get absolutely blasted by fire archers, by multi-hit archers, and I don't know if the coast has AoE units yet. I haven't really ingrained the waves into my mind, but any form of AoE that hits on your wall is going to crush Bannerat. However, you can get around that by using them in conjunction with Longbow Rat, which I'll talk about when we get to Longbow Rat. Up next is Musketeer. 116 cost, 3 population cost, legendary, ooh buddy, has a long reload time, range 400, 42 attack, 48 health. Upgrades to 174 cost, 63 attack, 72 health. I have tried so many times. I think more than any other card in this game, I have tried to use Musketeer. I can think of probably 5 or 6 runs at least where I have built an entire run around taking Musketeer. And I say this from a position of knowledge. This card is unplayable. I have tried and tried and tried. I really cannot find a place where taking Musketeer works. Even with the advisor, even with anything you can imagine, stacking buffs on him. He's just so bad. Why is he so bad? Let's talk about it. Musketeer is a mid-range unit. He stands in front of the wall. His range is about to 3/4 of the way to the next wall, I would say. And the reload time is just so bad. Like, it takes him so long to reload. It's incredible. And the bigger problem than that is past wave 20, you need 3 Musketeers shooting each unit. If you don't have 3 of them shooting, enemies have around 120 health past wave 20, and so you need a lot of Musketeers to clear waves. I have been suggested this, and I have not yet tried it, but there is a card in the skill set that increases units' attack speed, which is supposed to up the Musketeer reload time, but I'm just going to be honest with you. It's really hard for me to see a reason to do that, especially with him at a legendary rarity and 3 population cost. I really struggle to want to go through the motions in order to make what should be a really powerful, exciting card playable. Up next is Bandit. 31 cost, 1 population cost, common rarity, 5 attack, 14 health. Card text is obtain as much gold as damage done to the enemy. Upgrades to 8 attack, 21 health, 47 cost. Bandit is a frontline unit. He has a pretty slow attack, slower than Militia for sure. And what happens is whenever he hits, he generates you however much money equal to damage he does. This damage is not capped by enemy HP as far as I have been able to tell. So if you give this guy 30 attack and he hits a 8 health Plague Rat, you'll still get 30 gold. Bandit is okay. He's really weird. So the thing about Bandit is, if you look at his stats, right, 5 attack, 14 health. You look at Militia, they have 3 attack, 16 health. Bandit cannot replace Militia, which is what I tend to look to do because I try to keep the deck size thin. So when you take Bandit, you're committing to having at least 3 military cards in your deck because you still need a frontline unit to tank for your backline, or else you're going to get run over. In theory, you could maybe stack up just a lot of bandits and make money. The obvious big benefit is that Bandit is a military card that supplements your early income. That's pretty worth. And I think that as the general, since you have the general's leader ability to buff ally attack and health, this unit can be pretty good. You can maybe get away with holding on to him alone if you have rally plus general ability. and like get rid of Militia. Other than that, though, I tend to skip Bandit. Ideally, I have a better economic plan. However, if you get offered a Bandit by like wave 8 and your economics are looking real bad, you may want to pick one up. One thing I do want to note about Bandit is this is maybe just confirmation bias, but when I played with Bandit, I would put out Bandits and Militia side by side, and it seemed to me like Bandits got priority targeted by enemy units. I was always losing all of my Bandits before any Militia. Duckling Rider, 125 cost, 3 population cost, legendary card. Card text is attacks through the enemy, 5 attack, 70 health. Upgrades to 188 cost, 8 attack, 105 health. This card is maybe the only legendary military card. I think it might be the only legendary military card that's worth taking. Duckling Rider is really good. They have nerfed him. They nerfed him in a recent patch. He gets slowed down when he attacks through enemies now. So when he charges through an enemy, let me talk about how he works, because he's kind of weird. He stands on the front line, but instead of just standing there and fighting enemies like a normal military unit does, Duckling Rider does a charge. He just runs straight through the enemies and then reaches the end of his range and runs back. I haven't really figured out how far the range is yet. It's hard to quantify even, but it seems like there is a cap to the range. He doesn't just keep going as long as there's enemies in his path. And then he turns around and returns. Duckling Rider on his own, I think, is okay. Like, if you stack up a few of these, you can take him. You can't take him as a main tank, but you can take him alongside other units, and he'll help clear out waves pretty fast, especially if you stack up a bunch of them. The way that you really make this unit pop is by stacking movement speed. Taking a bunch of shoe markets, or taking March and playing March a lot of times, things like that. You can make Duckling Rider so fast that he can't be hit. I don't know if the slowing when walking through enemies affects this, because I have not been able to, in my recent runs, replicate this. I've never gotten Duckling Rider plus a March combo or anything like that. But Duckling Rider, in my opinion, is a really strong card, especially if you have a lot of movement speed to supplement him. You can just absolutely devastate waves and not ever even get hit. There's certain bosses, too, that just can't touch him. The final boss before the turtle on the forest, the salamander with the really long wind-up, cannot hit Duckling Rider if you have enough movement speed. Really love this legendary. I think he's a lot of fun, too. I have a video playing with Duckling Rider and high attack speed on the YouTube from an earlier stream if you want to see it in action. Although, note that this is pre-nerf, so I don't know how the nerf affects stacking movement speed on him. I think it shouldn't. Militia we already talked about, so up next is Pike Rat. Pike Rat is 39 gold, 1 population cost, common rarity, 3 attack, 20 health. Card text says slow the enemy, upgrades to 5 attack, 30 health, and 59 cost. Pike Rat is a mid-range unit. He is not a frontline unit like you may believe by his art. Pike Rat has a very, very long pike. He hits from mid-range, he stands behind your melee units, he slows the enemies. Stacking up a bunch of Pike Rats can actually almost halt enemy movement, not quite, but pretty close to. Before the changes to how waves stacked up, I used to love Pike Rat. You could have him as your only military unit, and the still would stack up enough that enemies could never touch him. With the way the waves stack up now, as well as some changes to... I'm not sure if they changed his range, but mainly just the way waves stack up, Pike Rat really has trouble if he doesn't have someone tanking for him between waves 10 and 20, because enemy range increases and ranged units start to give him a lot of trouble. Personally, I don't take Pike Rat very much anymore. However, if you like a large amount of cards in your deck, like you are okay with taking a third military card, Pike Rat is a pretty good position, or pretty good card to take as a mid-range unit. The slow can be pretty efficient. I'm going to talk about the next 3 cards altogether: Squire, Bachelor, and Royal Guard. If you don't know, you get Squire either from an advisor or an event, and Squire generates you Bachelor, which generates you Royal Guard. So, I'll talk about them in order though. Squire essentially has a 5 population cost and a cost of 104 gold. I'm not even going to bother talking about his stats. The other thing to note is that it's single use. If you're going to, basically, if you have population and you like Royal Guard, you should take this card. I never take this card because I don't like committing 5 population for 6 minutes of my run to get a single Royal Guard. Now, the payout is pretty good, but he is 5 population. Single use card, deals AoE damage of 5, so he'll hit 5 units. 80 attack, 180 health. Pretty beefy. It's not terrible if you have a duplication method. If you have specialized, if you have a tavern, you can keep duplicating Royal Guards, and then it's okay. But for me personally, I don't think the reward is good enough. He will get worn down over the course of the rest of the combats, unless you have a way to heal him. But for me, I just skip it typically. But if you like it, it's a lot of fun. Like, this is something that's important. This is a fun card, and if you like it for that reason, I absolutely think you should take it. However, I personally never take it because I don't like the effect. If you do want to take it, you're going to want to just put your squire and your bachelor down next to your town hall as far away from combat as possible. Hope they never even see action and wait for them to pop you out a Royal Guard. One other thing I want to note about this is I'm not sure if, for the purposes of a festival card or anything else, these cards count as labor cards or not. I have not tested that. Next up is Longbow Rat. 66 cost, 2 population. Epic rarity, rear rank, range 1000, 10 attack, 8 health. Stands behind the wall, 99 gold when upgraded, 15 attack, 12 health. Longbow Rat is good. This is the thing about Longbow Rat. The range is so long that Longbow Rat will hit enemies from an extra wall back. So you can have a wall and then have another wall in front of that wall, and your Longbow Rats at the first wall will be able to hit enemies at the second wall. This is the unit that I was talking about in conjunction with Bannerat. You can stack up a bunch of longbows and Bannerats at a wall with an extra wall in front of it, beef up the wall in front of it with one of the skill cards that help you increase wall health, reinforce, thorn fence, or repair, and that can be a plan to beat an entire game. Like, Longbow Rat, Bannerat is one of the first combos I ever used to beat this game. I think it's very strong. However, in recent times, I have moved away from it because it has a very high population cost. Longbow Rat as like 1 or 2 is not very good. This unit starts to become good when you mass up like 15 or 20 of them, and then you can really clear waves before they even touch your walls. Other than that situation, though, recently I've just been skipping Longbow Rat. Up next is Guardian. This is the unit, I don't know if I mentioned it in this recording. This is the one unit that I think the military changes that they did had a decent effect on. He got a pretty sizable buff. He got +2 to his attack and +20 to his health in the most recent buff. That being said, let me talk about him first. 107 gold, 3 population, legendary, absorbs the damage of friendly units, and 5 attack, 120 health, 8 attack, 180 health, 161 cost. Guardian is another legendary card that I don't think is very good, mainly because the 3 population cost is hard to swing. The idea I first had when playing this game is, alright, Guardian was going to be broken. You put Guardian down, you put down a few medics, he protects everyone, and the medics just heal him. In theory, this is a great idea. However, there is one big thing that you run into when you try that. Guardian does not protect allied units from AoE damage. He cannot protect your units that are standing in fire. They will just die in the fire. For that reason, I tend to skip Guardian, although he's an okay tank. I've had runs where I got one early off of the advisor, and it's okay. Like, you can swing him if you like him. I tend to aim for something a little different, mainly Shield Rat. I think that 3 Shield Rats are better than 1 Guardian typically, except for, no, I mean, just typically I think that. The only real case for it is against AoE. 1 Guardian is better against AoE than 3 Shield Rats, but, you know, personally I prefer the Shield Rats. One thing to note about Guardian too is that he's really, really slow on attack speed. Really, really slow. So he's gonna be a terrible damage dealer for you, but that's not really what he's here for. D-Rex. This is a event card. You get this event from There's an event that'll pop up occasionally that gives you an egg. You have to, very similarly to Squire, Bachelor, Royal Guard, you have to let the egg sit for a while, then you get an upgraded egg, and then once you play the upgraded egg and that finishes, you get D-Rex. D-Rex costs 500 gold, 10 population, he's a single use, 100 attack, 1000 health, 750 gold on the upgrade, 150 attack, 1500 health. I like D-Rex more than Royal Guard. The big amount of health is fun, but mostly I skip this card. It's fun. Like, it's a very fun card, but for the most part, if I'm trying hard, I would skip this. If you get the event that gives you the syringes, though, to give units bonus health, I highly recommend using those syringes on the D-Rex because that event also increases their size, and you will get a very large duck, and that's kind of fun. But the biggest problem is his massive health pool means it takes forever for him to get healed up by any means of healing you have. Crossbow Rat. 49 gold cost, 1 population cost, rare at the rarity, 2 piercing, range 300, 26 health, 10 attack. This is a mid-range unit, very similar to Musketeer. I will try this unit again. Currently, I'm going to tell you that I think it's real bad, but they have buffed this unit by like 6 total attack. He used to have 4 attack, I think, when I last played with him. One thing that isn't noted on this card is that he has a wind-up time. After he shoots, he has to reload his crossbow, which takes a few seconds. So that's the main reason that I don't like him. But if you like having a melee, mid-range, and backline unit, or just melee, mid-range even, you can take Crossbow Rat as a okay mid-range. Make sure you let your frontline can tank for him for a long time, though, because it takes a while for him to do damage. The upgrade gives him 74 cost, 15 attack, and 39 health. Mostly, though, this is a skip from me. I don't particularly like it. Slinger. 38 gold, 1 population cost, common rarity, rear rank, stuns the enemy, range 500, 3 attack, 5 health. Upgrades to 57 cost, 5 attack, 8 health. Slinger, there's one thing that I don't like about Slinger, and it's his attack speed. You look at this card on paper, you look at what this tells you right here, and this is a direct upgrade to guards. The extra 2 health that they have means that they don't get killed in one shot from spitter units on the first 10 waves. The stun sounds good, higher attack range, higher attack. This card sounds great. However, I never take this because his attack range is... Or not his attack range, his attack speed is really slow. And for that reason, I tend to skip Slinger. However, again, maybe if you use one of the attack speed manipulation cards from the skill set, you could make this good. However, for my personal taste, I skip Slinger almost every time. Similar thing to the Armored Knight with the stun. Stun sounds good on paper, but against bosses, which is most of the time where you're going to get killed, the stun doesn't help you very much. Exiled. 111 cost, 3 population, legendary card. Text says, -2 attack for every other unit deployed near this unit, 30 attack, 48 health, 45 attack, 72 health, 167 cost on upgrade. Exiled is really bad. I've tried and tried and tried with this guy too, similar to Musketeer. I try. It's real bad. The card isn't good. You can maybe use it. The only time I ever take this card is if you get it off of the advisor. You're going for the Slayer's achievement. You're taking every advisor. Get a random advisor. Oops, it's Exiled. This unit can hold it down for a very long time through, I'd say, wave 16. The big problem with Exiled is like big attack, decent attack speed, crushes the first like 15 waves. However, their health is low and enemies outscale them very quickly. So you can't hold on to Exiled as a mainstay plan because you can't really mask them, you can't give them much support. Overall, I would pass this unit unless forced to take it. If you're forced to take it, you can use like 2 or 3 of these to hold down a side for relatively cheap. Druid, 51 cost, 2 population cost, rarity, traps an enemy for 1 second, range 300, 5 attack, 24 health. I have to admit to you, I have not taken Druid very often, so I don't have extensive knowledge on how this unit works. This is a mid-range unit, I'm certain of that. The only thing I'm not really certain of is if a massed amount of Druids can stun units indefinitely. However, the problem with Druid is the problem with Armored Knight population cost. This is a mid-range unit that I really, like, for the effect, 2 population is really not worth it, in my opinion. The cast time is a little long, and the damage isn't very high. I would skip this almost always. I mean, after the first time I took it, I went, oh wow, this doesn't seem good, and this doesn't seem like something I want to use to try and make good. I don't want to try to make this good. I do not recommend. To check the upgrade though. I don't know if I did or not. 77 gold, 8 attack, 36 health. Always pass on Druid, but maybe it's secretly overpowered and I just missed the proper circumstance. Soul Reaper, 59 cost, 2 population cost. Rarity is rare. Soul Siphon, attack increases as the number of collected soul increases. 4 attack, 36 health. 6 attack, 54 health, 89 gold on the upgrade. Soul Reaper, I have to admit, I have seen this unit a lot of times. I have never taken this, and the reason is very similar. It's actually very similar to Exile, why I will never take Soul Reaper. First of all, it's 2 population cost, which is shaky, because this is an early to mid-game unit. 2 population cost on an early game unit is not what I want to see. It needs a big effect, and the effect on this guy sounds really good in theory. You can stack up Soul Siphon. If you don't know how Soul works, by the way, when this card is in your hand, it will gain charges. So as a unit dies, it gains charges while it's in your hand. You can stack up its attack pretty high. That sounds great, right? The problem comes in that it doesn't stack up its health. So this guy can have as much health as you want. As a melee unit though, or sorry, as much attack as you want. But since he's a melee unit, the low health means that as soon as you get to wave 20, Rangers are just going to kill him before he can touch the enemy. There are some things I don't know. I don't know his attack speed, I don't know his attack range, because I don't ever want to take this unit. But in the future, I will test this unit out a little more extensively than I have, which, you know, currently I have not done any testing. It seems real bad though. I think the early game 2 population cost units are real damning. You get half as much out of them, and I don't think that they're good. Earth Spirit, 37 gold cost, no population cost. Single use, Soul Siphon, HP increases as the number of collected soul increases. 2 attack, 20 health. 3 attack, 30 health, 56 cost. Earth Spirit is unlike every other military card that we've talked about in that this card is generated from a building. This is generated from, I think it's called the Stone Altar. Let me look. Let me find it real quick. It's a relatively new card, however I have played with it. Summon Pit. It is from the Summon Pit. So to get this unit, you have to understand that you have to get the Summon Pit, meaning that you have to stack up 40 soul on this building. 40 units have to die while this building is out, and then you get 3 Earth Spirits. Excuse me. And then this unit stacks up its health. In theory, this unit is really good. However, what I have found in practice with this unit is that you just wait so long before Earth Spirit actually stacks up. It takes way too long. Because you have to wait for 40 units to die to get the building to spawn you a unit. Then you have to wait, I would say, at least another 20 before this even reaches an acceptable range. If you have ways to manipulate soul, if you're building around soul, Earth Spirit is maybe a good frontliner, especially since he has no population cost, but I think he's more trouble than he's worth. But also I should note that I don't play a whole lot of soul builds. I don't really like soul builds. I've tried them like 3 or 4 times, and every time I play one I just go, man, this feels like a lot of work for not a great reward. So take that into consideration if you really liked playing with soul. I mean, he's probably pretty good if you have a good way to make it work. Pirate, 26 cost, 1 population cost, rare, rarity, 9 attack, 32 health. After 60 seconds, unit disappears. This is the new unit. This is the new military card that I have never played with. I have not touched this unit, as well as the 3 units you see here that are locked. I'm just going to give you my initial impressions of Pirate right now. And I think that this is really good. I actually do believe that Pirate seems really good, but there's an asterisk next to that. Pirate is going to be a really good unit if you have a stable early to mid-game economy. Because what's going to happen is if you have the money to cycle through your deck and play as many of these as you want, then you can build a pretty big standing army out of pirates for each wave, and then you can let them disappear and replace them with better units later down the line, especially since they're really cheap for pretty good stats. They're not too expensive. Now, if you have a bad economy, basically having a set of units that die every, I'm going to estimate about 2 waves. I'm going to guess that waves come every 30 seconds because that sounds about right to me. I don't think it's good. But if you have a stable economy, I think that Pirate sounds pretty good. I'll definitely be picking these up when I'm playing this game in the future, and I will see how it is. Finally, last but not least, Longsword Rat. 76 gold cost, 2 population cost, epic rarity, AoE attack of 2, 7 attack, and 54 health. Upgrades to 114 gold, 11 attack, 81 health. I don't think I showed the upgrade on Pirate. I'm sorry. 39 gold, 14 attack, 48 health. It's mostly linear upgrades, right? I've mentioned that in the last video as well. Longsword Rat, though, he is really good. And I will tell you there's 2 reasons that he's really good and something that seems like it should be good, like Armored Knight, which has better stats and a similar population cost. Why is Longsword Rat really good, but Armored Knight is really bad? And there's 2 main reasons. One, the AoE attack is universally good. Hitting multiple units, even if it's just 2, is really strong for Longsword Rat. And 2 is his attack speed. His attack speed is actually pretty solid. It's not really slow like the Armored Knight. I think that unlike most of the other higher population cost units, Longsword Rat is worth the cost. I think that if you stack up a good number of these, I mean, I've tried this. I tried this in a normal run right after he was released. You can win with just Longsword Rat. You don't need any backline. If you have enough population to put down like 20 to 30 Longsword Rats on either side, you can beat wave 30 on a normal run. And that's it. I will talk about these 3 cards that are locked when I unlock them and play with them in the Let's Play section of this series. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it if you lasted through me talking for 40 minutes. I'm kind of concerned about the building cards because there's a lot more time. I'm going to probably be a little more concise when talking about building cards that aren't very good. Or just like building cards that are super straightforward, right? I think that there's a lot of nuance in the military cards, so I wanted to make sure that I explained it pretty well. If you enjoyed, please feel free to leave a like. Tell me that I'm dumb and my opinions are wrong if you disagree with me, and I will tell you why I think what I think in more detail than I even covered here. I really appreciate it if you made it this far in the video, though, and I hope that you have a great day. See you next time.